here in the wild, where the heart beats free. We're crafting our dreams, just my family and me. From sunrise to sundown, we're making our way, building our legacy, day by day. Welcome to the Wildheart Podcast, where passion meets purpose, homeschooling, homesteading, living dreams that serve us.
Welcome to the Wildheart Podcast. I'm Tony, and this is
Erin. Where passion meets purpose is where we should do it, and then we lead into our names. But, you know, we'll get it eventually. We're only on episode, 26.
28.
Oh, I was close.
So yeah, welcome.
I have a squeaky chair again.
We always have squeaky chairs.
Oh, and now it's not squeaking.
That's okay. Just sit perfectly still. I'll center myself a little bit. We're back at it.
We were never gone.
We were gone for a little while there.
Yeah, but
life
we've
happens.
been back.
Life happens.
We were back 2 weeks ago. That was
what have we been doing in the last 2 weeks? How about that?
Managing children's sicknesses.
Yeah, there's a little bit of sickness that went through the house. I think I came out pretty unscathed.
I did not get it.
You said you had a little bit of a sore throat.
I had a sore throat and nothing else.
So, happens.
But also garden.
What?
Gardens.
Gardens. We're progressing with plans for the backyard. We built a fence.
Roof.
We're doing signing. Roof, fence, and flowers. So, and the freedom comes from I feel like the main driver for putting the fence up has been to really allow the kids more freedom to the yard without us having to necessarily worry or monitor as actively as we have in the past, because it was basically open with unfortunate high traffic.
Well, yeah, it's not so much that we don't. I think when you say we don't have to monitor as closely, it's like you don't have to constantly be watching the little guy, because he'll just whoop.
Well, you don't have to worry about him wandering into traffic.
Yeah,
is really the main thing now.
It just came at me out of nowhere. That was weird.
It's a bug.
Yeah, it was right into my eyeball.
That's where the freedom comes in. So we're pushing the boundaries, the bumpers of our our kids' care out a little bit, allowing them a little bit of freedom to the yard now. And I don't know if we're gonna pull the trigger on that door screen yet, but potentially maybe. It's just like a mosquito netting that you could put over the door. Basically just have the door open all the time. It's kind of like a screen door, except magnetized, just to prevent bugs from going in. The only thing is the air conditioning obviously would be one of the factors for that.
It's one of those things where you think the daughter or you think someone's coming out behind you and they're not, and then you're like, close the door or the bugs will get in. And
bugs happen.
With our daughter being so terrified of bugs as she is, it's like
she is and she isn't. Like, there's times where she is, and there's other times it's like I feel it's for some reason it's ants. She's more scared of ants right now,
and flies. But it's
like it varies. Like spiders, she's fine with in a lot of cases.
I think it has to do with how quickly they come at her, and if it's a surprise, if it's on her or near something she wants to play with, she's done. But if it's just
if it's
hanging
something
out
she
somewhere,
comes up to, then it's different.
Yeah, very different.
That's fair. I don't like things sneaking up on me. So
keep that in mind. Anyways, go on.
Yeah, that's the roof was a big endeavor. We'll talk about that today a bit, but it's about, I'll say, the 50% mark of where it needs to be. I've been doing that solo for the most part. You've been giving me waters, but it's not like you've been up on the roof there with me. I only have one harness.
I could go up on the roof, but I wouldn't do much.
You could, it's better that you keep the kids free
Reined in.
from
Yeah.
free from things and
Oh
nails
yes,
falling on them.
that was the frustration of the week where I was like, all right, kids, pool time, bring out the pool, and then you come home and you're like, I was gonna do the roof, and promptly filled the pool with a whole bunch of like
Asphalt.
debris from the roof.
Yeah.
P.S. I want to do the pool tomorrow. Are you planning on doing any roofing this weekend?
Yeah. No. Yes, actually. So, keep the pool out. Like, you don't have to fill it to the max. But
Just keep in mind that I'm not going to be around on the weekend.
yeah, you're working. That's a perfect time for me to demo.
Wonderful.
Nonetheless, we have the theme for today. I guess, yeah. What does the fence mean for you? You're home with the kids more.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I've had this shift over the last couple of weeks where like the deck space has been really helpful because it gives us something we can, be on that's, not just rocks. And then now adding that fence has, like you said, added that other layer of not needing to micromanage the little guy as much when we're outside. Because one of the biggest things is like when we were outside without having the fence, if I took 5 seconds and I was just like looking at our plants, or daughter needs something, so I look at her for a second, he's gone.
Yeah.
And he does not have the awareness of,
Yeah.
checking for traffic or paying attention and listening for cars and stuff
Yeah.
like that yet.
Well, you know what? Today on the bike ride, he was aware of the car, and like maybe it was because he was on the bike he was aware, but he did have the awareness to pull over, right? So he's developing it.
He's working on it,
But yeah, it's not 100% there, right? You don't want, it's not on the kid to make yourself safe. It's,
yeah,
so
2 years old. Yeah, you're fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So having that fence allows it to be, like today I was sitting on the deck. I had my iPad. I was drawing patterns, and the kiddos were just playing in the sandbox and tottering around the backyard, and I didn't have to worry about being like making sure that you're not getting outside and even the daughter.
It's not about control. It's about like safe autonomy. You could just be yourself in this space, basically. Do what little guy eats sand every now and then, but it'll help him build an immune system.
Yeah.
We kind of discussed plans for demoing our garden and rebuilding them differently.
Yeah, at the end of the season.
At the end of the season. We have... maybe we'll do like a walkthrough of our garden before we demo it, just to kind of explain what it was as a video idea, I'll say.
I have all the video evidence you need right now on my phone.
Good. Well, let's put it together and say a farewell before the season is out.
I think we're looking at like a couple of months from now at least.
Yeah, and like it all ties back to like bigger themes of trust, exploration, like self-regulation for the kids is really what this kind of flows into. I had this conversation with our daughter recently about how the rules don't exist that we've enforced. They're there for reasons, but at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want. You just have to understand that there's consequences. It came down to a simple explanation of bringing stuffies along. She really wanted to bring some stuffies along on an outing I don't remember what the occasion was, but she essentially, I said, listen, if you really want to bring stuffies, it's fine, but you have to understand the reason why we've put the no stuffy rule in place. Essentially, when we're out and about, is generally because we don't want you to lose it. But if you want to start taking responsibility of bringing the stuffy and being responsible for it, then I have no problem. You just have to understand the consequence if you forget it, and if either your mom or I don't notice that you've lost it or misplaced it or forgot it somewhere, it will be lost.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of went into example of some of the stuffies that you've received from, you know, places that don't exist anymore, or you can't really get them very easily. They aren't replaceable. So you just have to have that in your awareness, kid. And, you know, hey, if you want that responsibility, you let me know. I basically said, you let Mama or me know, and we'll proceed down that route. Our goal is to make you independent.
Yeah.
So,
well, and to go along with that, it's also that added bonus of like, you know, she's carrying something and she's like, oh, I don't want to, can you hold this for me? And it's like, no, you brought that along. You can hold on to it.
Yep.
I already have all my stuff.
Yep.
I've got the bag. I've got your brother. I've got all these things. I don't need to hold on to another like bag or stuffed animal or whatever.
the thing that you chose to bring along.
Yeah.
You take responsibility.
Yeah. Squeaky squeak.
So, yeah, it's really, we're starting to develop that rapport with our kids about roles and responsibilities, really. They're, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on that matter. How about you?
Yeah, I was going to say, too, just having the added bonus of the fence. Like, I remember growing up, I would be probably about the same age as our oldest is now. And, you know, being able to go outside, and granted, I grew up rurally, so being able to go outside without having, like, the constant supervision in the sense that, like, no one else was outside with me other than my sister. And just knowing that, like, I was free to kind of move about as I wished, that was something that I feel we were missing being here in the city, because literally anyone could walk into the backyard, or, you know, the children could wander away. And, you know, like, having that fence now creates that extra barrier where I can say, hey, stay in the backyard. And granted, you know, it's helpful that they can't open the gate from where they are now.
Yeah. Which will change, and, you know, there's...
But it's
an evolution, right?
It gives them the space, because there's been times where I'm like, all right, cool, you want to hang out outside? Like, when was it? It was raining on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday that it was raining. You know, our daughter really wanted to go and play out in the rain. I'm like, all right, have at it. I don't want to, but I'm sitting at the computer upstairs, and, you know, so I could still see around, and also, too, I conveniently just pulled up the camera feed on my phone.
Yeah,
and I was able to watch her.
Our little doorbell camera.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's progressing towards that freedom.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good first step. So, yeah.
Yeah, she stayed in the yard. That was good. I appreciated it.
I'm not sure she has too much of a choice. The one gate is accessible to them. I don't know if they've necessarily figured out a way how to open it yet, but they will probably.
Well,
our little guy tends to be a little bit of an escape artist. In that case, we'll figure out a latching system.
But also, I didn't realize the gate was open, and I left them outside for a while. Not like a long time, but I was bringing stuff into the house and wasn't paying too close attention, and they were fine. I was like, oh, the gates are closed, we're fine. And then, yeah, when I went out to water that evening, I was like, this gate is actually open.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the daughter that opened it, but it was new the night before.
Well, yeah, I put a second hinge on that gate as well today. That was my Home Depot trip that we went today. Home Depot. Let's move on to roofing.
That's a you thing.
Well, it was mostly me, but like you had to pick up the extra slack with the kids, basically, in terms
while
of
they were sick.
Yeah, I mean, that maybe it was the reason why I avoided any. I was hiding on the roofing.
Gee, thanks.
I was doing my own sweat lodge on the roof. A few lessons from that is mostly expectations of how long it takes, and of course, your first time roofing is always going to take the longest. Like first time doing anything is always going to take the longest, but just the learning curve getting your quote unquote sea legs up there. There's muscles in your legs that if you're not constantly walking on an incline, like you're not always using, and those were definitely sore after what was it, 3-4 days I spent, three in a morning. It's kind of I spent it, sorry, I should quantify that by like I was working.
Yeah, I think it was 3.
I did my day job, obviously, as an electrician, and then I jumped over to roofing as soon as I got home.
Yeah, you demoed.
I demoed the first Thursday, Friday.
A bit of Friday, and then you started.
I'll break it down. So Thursday, I did the majority of one section of roof. That was my goal. That our south-facing roof is really the one that's been kind of beat on and battered. The rest of the roof is honestly perfectly fine. So that's my focus for this fix. So south-facing roof over the garage was literally the shingles are flapping in the wind. I'd replaced about 6 before the winter and a handful more in the spring. I did the cap, but the demo I did was predominantly the shingles on the one, I'll say on the half of that section of the roof. On the second day, I put the sheathing down, the kind of tarp material, the underlayment, and the ice barrier, ice damming. The ice damming was, I think, the thing I had most challenge with, and that's because it's literally just a big roll of heavy tar paper, and it's the heaviest thing, other than the shingles that you're throwing up there, and it's very awkward. So like normally what you can do is have some guy hold one end and then just kind of roll it out straight. I tried just stapling it down, but the tar paper doesn't really work as well as stapling. It just kind of rips through that. I found I just went to town stapling it. I found that the tar gummed up the stapler. That stapler was frustrating on the stapling day, but that it was also not helpful that like you came out and you're like, oh, by the way, thunderstorm. I'm like, oh, great.
Well, and I think it was also really windy that day.
Yeah, it was. That was the high stress I think I had. Like I'd basically removed all the protection. I'd found a hole in the roof. And then I was like fumbling around with the stapler, fixing it repeatedly, and then I found out there's a thunderstorm coming, and I should probably get something on the roof so that water doesn't leak into the house. But thankfully it's over the garage, and it's only my stuff in the garage. Nonetheless, one-man job roofing is normally you would have a crew of guys, and obviously there's a reason for that, and it's like doing it alone obviously takes longer, but with the added aspect of like, oh, by the way, roof needs to be covered for rain, that's an added stress factor.
I'm pretty sure you were the one who was like, oh, did you hear that there's gonna be a thunderstorm, or like we were on thunderstorm watch, and I was like, yeah, it's only like, I don't know, 20 or 30%, maybe 40%, and you're like, yeah. Anyways, you ended up getting it done.
Yeah, I got it like protected well enough. And the way I'm doing the valley is I kind of I just have a temporary valley for now. When I demo the other roof, I'll lay accordingly. But yeah, like I guess lots of lessons from that. Just the roof safety. Demo, I think I had a pretty good game plan during the demo of throwing tarps everywhere. I had most of the shingles getting thrown right into a truck that was open cap, no cap I should say, just like open bed, and then just I broke down all the shingle bundles. I carried them up a little bit easier that way. I just kind of carried up what I did at a time instead of throwing them all up on the roof. That way I wasn't tripping over them up there or anything like that. There was enough to trip over already with the nails and just everything up there, I guess. Tool wise, I was really frustrated. I broke some of my tool belt actually.
Oh no.
Serves me right for getting a cheap tool belt, but yeah, all in all, it was a good learning experience. I'm sure the next one will go faster.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit smoother because you're not in the learning. Well,
Yeah.
you're still learning, but you're not learning all the basics.
Yep. And then the Milwaukee
go
nail
faster.
gun performed beautifully. I'll say it was like, I think for the whole section of roof, I used like half of a 5-amp battery, and it was like
That's awesome.
no jams, no nothing. Worked great. Didn't slide off the roof.
It's always a good thing.
Yeah, it has little grippy pads on it, which are very helpful. Tell me about your flower essences. What have you been doing with that?
So with the garden has been exploding with like all the goodness. My yarrow has been very abundant so far this year. So I think, what was it? Made the essences yesterday, so I think it was Monday. Yeah, it was Monday that I did a big harvest. I harvested quite a bit of the yarrow, and then I bundled them up, and I'm hanging them to dry in preparation for a couple of different things that I'm going to do medicinally with it. So I have plans to make a wound powder. I have plans to do my first tincture. We're going to try to do a tincture, which will be taken internally to help with a couple of different things, because yarrow is the master of blood, and then master of master of blood and master of skin, I think. I don't know. There's a couple of.
What does
different...
that mean? Master of blood and master of.
Basically,
master
it's
of blood.
it's really good for
vampire.
master of blood, master of fevers. That's what it is. So, if you are bleeding, if you've got like, I'm not saying like if you chopped off your arm and you shoved yarrow on it. I mean, maybe it'd be somewhat effective, but not completely. But if you cut yourself, like if you're in the kitchen and you cut yourself with a knife, you could use some of the yarrow. Take a leaf or some flower heads and kind of crush them up a little bit and put them on your cut. They will staunch the bleeding. It's also really good for fevers. So if you have a fever and you ingest yarrow, typically this would be given in like a tincture, or you could do it in like a water infusion, similar to like a tea but longer steep time. Then it can help bring down a fever and control it a little bit better. So that's why we say the master of blood and master of fever. But anyways, so I'm going to do my first tincture. That's going to be really good for, like I said, if you have fevers, if there's any menstrual issues, so like menstrual cramping. It's really good for skin conditions to take it internally, and a little bit of an immune support as well. So I'm going to do that. And then
I like that
what else
idea.
is and then I'm going to make an infused oil out of the dried ones as well. Once it's dry, put that with some form of oil. So in the past I've used olive oil, but this time because it's going to be an infused oil that's used in a salve, I might use something like jojoba or almond oil. That's a little bit more, better to put on your skin than olive oil.
What did you use the brandy for?
The brandy was for the flower essence.
Oh, okay.
So I was getting there.
Okay.
So after we had our little rainstorm on Tuesday, I still had some yarrow that needed to be harvested, but I was saving it to make flower essences. So where the dried yarrow or fresh yarrow could be used in different medicines to work, I guess, on the physical body, we can use flower essences, which is really using the energy of the flower with the energy of the sun infused in water, to work on the energetic, subtle bodies of the body.
So it's just a different perspective of how you're using the herb.
Yeah. So think
Herb
of it.
or herb.
Think of it similar to how I use my Reiki, right? Like there's massage. You can massage someone and you're working on their physical body, whereas like when I do my Reiki, I'm working on their energetic bodies. Flower essences are kind of like that to, I guess, other herbal methods. Like I said, you're kind of working with the subtle energy bodies of the body. So, for example, white yarrow is really good for protection, like psychic protection and like holding boundaries. I also did, I forgot to go and pick up more brandy, but I also did.
I wanted to do some more research on what brandy to pick up.
Oh, okay, well.
If you're going to get a brandy, we might as well get a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I've already started that one, so maybe I'll just get like a small bottle. Anyways.
Just go for broke.
Gonna get a $500 bottle of brandy to make flower essences out of. Yeah. Anyways, going back, so I made the yarrow flower essence, and then I also started making a calendula flower essence, which is very warm.
Those are those orange flowers, right?
Yes, they're the orange and yellow flowers that I have. Calendula is very warm and welcoming, and I don't know, I had flowers and I just wanted to
do something
put them
with them
out there.
What's the birds that didn't like the flowers last year or the year before? Those calendulas. There was a bird that you said was snipping them.
It wasn't calendula, those were morning glories, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The greckles. I have
Fair.
Enemies with greckles. Anyways.
Can we talk about the birds for a bit?
Yeah, hold on. I don't know if I'm quite done with the flower essences. Continue. So, anyways, this was the first time that I have been making flower essences. This is the first 2 that I've made. Overall, pretty straightforward. Like, if you understand how you're supposed to do it, where you take the flowers, you float them on water in a glass bowl in the sunlight, and you sit it in the sun for like 20 minutes to 3 hours. Pretty straightforward. However, I got distracted and I couldn't sit and watch my flower essences, so it ended up getting shaded, which apparently is a big no-no. Not necessarily a no-no. It just changes the energetic properties of the flower essence. It's not ideal. Yeah, it's not ideal. So then I ended up moving it back into the sun, and I was like, okay, we'll go at it with this. But essentially, with the flower essences, if they get a little shaded, they can be more, instead of it being like energetic it could be more introspective with the oils, with the essences.
Yeah.
So yarrow, with it being boundaries and psychic protection and things like that, it could be more like introspective, like things that you need to work on for yourself versus, kind of shielding out the external. Anyways, that's just a random aside.
It's like, it's interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of similar to homeopathics.
Okay.
It's like the flower version of homeopathics for herbs. Yeah. Anyways, that's that.
Our daughter's been really into our birds lately.
Yes.
Can you give us some synopsis of the last 2 weeks of birdness?
Okay, so
actually, let's go into like the homeschooling side of it. Like, how have we been applying it in the homeschooling? Because we've gone to the library, we've done a whole bunch of stuff with that.
So first, I'll give a quick TLDR. So we've got some birds hanging out in our tree out back. We have house finch and we have sparrows. They've been nesting in our tree the house finch has been nesting in our tree for at least a good 2 years. The sparrows have been there for a little bit longer than that. Our daughter recognized that there was birds there. I said that they were nesting there, and then she got it in her head that she wanted to feed them, which is really adorable. So that is basically the long story short. Now, how we're applying it to homeschooling is that
first you identified them.
Yeah, we really looked at okay, what are these birds? So we took one of our, I guess, summers. What do we have it? We're calling them summer camps. Is the the bundle that we got with How We Learn. So we got that, and it has a section on birds. So one day back in June, we went to the library, and I said, okay, we're currently working on butterflies, and you said you want to learn more about birds. Let's have at it. Let's go find some books on these things. So we did. And one of the books that we got was, and I can't remember exactly what the title was, but it was like Feeding Backyard Birds. At the back of that book had pictures of various backyard birds that were kind of songbirds in North America. So we were able to go through and find the pictures of the birds. Now, I kind of already knew what birds we had, just given what I know about birds and what I had already researched. So being able to kind of point them out to her and be like, okay, what birds in this list or in this, in these pages look like the birds we've seen in the backyard? And she was able to identify them, and I told her what they were. Yep. And then she was like, well, I want to feed them. What do they eat? And so that spiraled into, let's figure out food and all that stuff. But along with, you don't have to go as in depth as we did, but we looked into the different types of feed that they'd like. So we knew that they like sunflowers, they like Nyjer, Nyjer. I'm going to say it Nyjer. I don't know. And millet. And with that too, we figured out like what's the better feeders for them to eat out of, and what ones would they prefer versus others. And then we went on an adventure. We went to the bird seed store because we are lucky enough to have one close by.
We also have they have tons of bird seed at Home Depot.
Yes, and they also have a massive bag of it for really cheap at Costco that's made in Beausejour. Oh. I just know that because I saw it the last time we went.
Neat.
But either way, anyways, so we went and we asked the lady at the store some questions, and she was able to point us in the right direction. We got a very basic feeder to start with because we didn't know some things.
Getting the lay of the land.
We didn't really know what kind of feeder we wanted. And like, to be honest, their tube feeders were way overpriced for what I was looking for. Like the one that I would want, which was like a four, I guess, feeder hole tube feeder, was like $60-$70. I was like, I can get that on Amazon for $20, or like Dollarama for cheaper.
3D print it for pennies.
I don't know if it's 3D printed, but yes, we could. I just don't know if I would. Anyways,
just
so
you can doesn't mean you should. But anyway, go on.
Yes, we did that, and we hung it in a position underneath the tree. And after a couple of days, I noticed that the birds were not eating off the feeder, and I thought that was weird. So I was like, maybe, let's see. And I've been using ChatGPT a lot for helping me figure out what our next steps are, or what the next move is, and being like, hey, this is what's happening. Ask me some questions to deepen your understanding so that you can provide some good advice for us. So after a little bit of back and forth, it, determined that maybe the birds just haven't been able to see it. It's not visible enough for them. So we moved it to a branch on the tree that was visible through their flight path. It was visible. The birds found it, but so too did the greckles.
So the long battle with the greckles.
And these side note, when we were talking about the morning glories, no, not morning glories. What were they called? Marigolds. They're marigolds. So years ago I had marigolds, and greckles do this thing called anting, where they allow a whole bunch of ants onto themselves to help kind of like eat away parasites or buggies that are smaller than the ants. And I don't know, they do that to help keep themselves clean. But then marigolds repel ants, so they came and they would like snip the heads off of my marigolds and rub it on themselves to get the ants off. And so I had this battle with the greckles. Anyways, coming back to nowadays, we noticed the greckles also found the bird feeder, which makes sense. It was a cylinder feeder, so it was a cylinder seed, like donut, that was just like hard packed seeds in, I don't know, I think it was glycerin. It mixed it in with or whatever. Anyways,
glue.
Essentially, they glued it together with something. Now, knowing Greckles are type of, I don't know if they're quite a corvid, but they're kind of a more dominant bird than songbirds. And knowing something about dominance in birds, some of these birds tend to be a little open to raiding nests if they know that they're nesting nearby. And being as the tree has the nests and the nest the trees
Feeder
had
was
the nest
close.
and the feeder was right there, I decided that we needed to move it because I didn't want the little birdies getting eaten by the Greckles. So I moved it. And they found it, no problem. The birds, our beautiful little songbirds found it. They were eating on it, but then again, the Greckles came back. We also had a magpie and a red-winged blackbird and all these other birds that we, like at one time, I counted up to 6 Greckles hanging around the bird feeder. And we have this nasty crow. I love crows, they're great. But there was this crow that hangs around our area, and it kind of like, I called him the mob boss. Because he's like the mob boss, and he's got all these Greckles that follow him around and like are his lackeys. And so the Greckles, knowing that there was a feeder here, seemed to bring the crow over. And then the other day I saw the crow was sitting in the tree. He was all like, if you're not seeing this on a video, you're gonna you don't understand what I'm doing. But he was all sneaky and evil looking, and so I don't know. I think we were eating dinner. I feel like we were eating dinner or we were having like a dessert, and I was like, "Hold on!" and I like stormed out the door. I was like, "Get out of my tree!" and he left. But today I found a couple of eggs that have sadly been eaten, which makes my heart a little sad. Because I don't know if that would have happened if we didn't try to feed the birdies. But, long story short, and the happy ending to it all is we're going to get a different feeder. We're going to get a tube feeder that is only small, or it's the openings are small enough and the perches are small enough for our songbirds to sit on, but not big enough for things like Greckles and blue jays and like the bigger
So what we learned about is the butterfly effect in this, essentially.
I killed birdies.
there's causes for actions.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the first time I
You can't blame
witnessed-
yourself, but
No.
nature has a way of being nature.
Yeah, but either way, we learned some things. We learned what to do, what not to do, how to identify birds. Oh, and along the story with the identification piece of it. So earlier, I found some more eggshells, but these ones were actually from successful hatches. So I brought them into the house, and I was like, "Ooh, like look at this, look at this, and this is like from our birds in the tree. Do you think we could identify what birds they came from?" So I made up a little handout of like what our birds looked like, the male and the female version, and then the eggs that what the eggs looked like, and I had a little blurb about like, the description of the egg, and then a little bit about like how long it takes for the eggs to incubate, and how many clutches or broods the birds would have, and like kind of talk about that a little bit. And our daughter found that so cool. She wanted me to do it for all of the birds in our area. So I'm working on it. We have red-winged blackbirds. We've seen robins, which, side note, I didn't realize that the male and female robins look virtually the same, except the female robin has a more orangey colored chest versus the red chest. I didn't know that.
All of it's Greek to me. Ornithology is not my specialty.
Yeah, apparently I'm training our daughter to be an ornithologist.
Is that the right one? Ornithology?
Yeah.
I think we also could talk about this. So.
Oh, I was like, what, my shirt?
Yes, no, so that's the crib from our little guy.
Yeah.
We upgraded him to a bigger bed, and with that flowing into the freedom, we're allowing him a little bit more freedom now in his room, and we had to rearrange it a little bit, mostly just to make it safe, and take the heater out that we had it over for the winter. We'll have to figure out a solution, or just hopefully teach him how heaters do and do not work before next winter. And yeah, it's because he was kind of treating it like a toy. Like, this is one of my toys. I can press buttons.
Yeah, he liked to press the buttons and knock it over. And
yeah, that's one course correct. We'll hopefully have to fix before next winter. But he'll be older and he'll more
like
understanding.
2.5 at that point.
Nonetheless, so yeah, that was a fun little transition.
Yeah, did it while he was sick, and that was awful. 10 out of 10, do not recommend. I would have kept him in the crib for a lot longer if I knew that it was going to be that bad. Because I think when we transitioned him, he had a fever, but he got better. And then it was like the day after, while I was building the bed, he was like, I'm like, what the heck? I don't know. And then he got sick.
He got the sniffles.
And
yeah, so...
Poor little guy. Such a wet cough. That was so gross.
Yeah, no, I mean, it happens, unfortunately. But for the most part, it's been a busy few weeks or couple weeks. So that's the TLDR on our life.
Yeah.
Thanks for popping in. Is there any last thoughts that you wanted to share with folks before we sign off for the day?
A few things, actually. So you can find me at Wildheart Motherhood on Instagram and Facebook, and I actually just switched over my TikTok to that as well. I'm going to start posting on TikTok, which feels so weird.
Tiki-talk.
The tikis. The clock app, as some people have called it. Anyways, so yeah, I'll be sharing some stuff there. I like to share anything about like homeschooling, motherhood insights, as well as some, I've put up some basic well, maybe not basic, but I've put up some things about herbalism on there. If you're at all interested in learning more about herbalism, I have a link that we'll probably put somewhere in the show notes that you can get information on the program that I took through Wild Rose College. So.
And I'm Wildheart Legacy on all the social media platforms I could think of. Yeah, that's the clock app or the talk app, or what did you call it?
The clock app, because it's TikTok.
Okay, yeah,
I get
clock. I get it. YouTube's, Insta's, Primal, X.
I am not on most of those.
That's okay. That's and of course YouTube, which is where we are right now. Follow all that fun jazz if you like any of what we're talking about, or just want to follow us on our journey out onto the homestead. This I'm starting to realize that the YouTube, and it's almost like a journal to a certain extent, where we're going to be journaling our progress out to a homestead, because right now we are currently not on a homestead, admittedly.
We're urban homesteading.
Sure, we're urban homesteading, and with the goal of proper homesteading.
Being a rural homesteader.
But yeah, honestly, that's the end goal here. Our timeline is not exactly in stone, but we are progressing towards it.
Sometime before we both retire.
Yes. Nonetheless, if you want to follow us on our journey, let us know what you'd like to hear about. Comment down below.
Yeah.
And thanks for tuning in. I'll cue up the music.
Da, da, da.
And have a good one.
Okay, bye.
Out here in the wild, where the heart beats free, we're crafting our dreams, just my family and me. From sunrise to sundown, we're making our way, building our legacy, day by day. Welcome to the Wildheart Podcast, where passion meets purpose, homeschooling, homesteading, living dreams that serve us. Together we're stronger through every stormy weather. The Wildheart Legacy, bound forever. With hands hands in the soil and love in the air. We're teaching our young ones how to live and care in this simple life where the lessons are real. We're writing our story with every turn of the wheel. So join us on this journey where the wild hearts roll. In the Wildheart Legacy, you'll always feel at home.